career, there's movies that I was aerial photography, and I had a concept of how I wanted to approach it.
He danced in his underwear, flew fighter jets, and clung to planes mid-air. But the biggest risk Tom Cruise ever took was love. For 10 years, he kept her a secret. And when he finally spoke, Hollywood froze. Because no one expected it to be her. He met her long before the world knew his name. Before the sunglasses, the billion-dollar box office, and the wild interviews. Before Scientology, before the fame. She wasn't famous. She didn't walk red carpets. And yet, she was there. When his first marriage crumbled, when Nicole Kidman walked out of his life, when the world mocked him for jumping on Oprah's couch, she stayed, quiet, unseen, unnamed. They raised children together. They shared a home, a life, and a secret. While the cameras followed Katie Holmes, the real story stayed buried, until now. At 62, Tom Cruise gave a quiet interview. No fanfare, no press tour. Just one sentence that changed everything. She was the love of my life. I just wasn't ready for the world to know. The public saw what they were meant to see. Tom Cruise, action star, heartthrob, the man who could outrun explosions and scale skyscrapers. What they didn't see was the woman behind the curtain. While tabloids obsessed over Penélope Cruz, Katie Holmes, and the collapse of his marriage to Nicole Kidman, she stayed out of frame. No interviews, no red carpet moments, no social media. But she was there. When Cruz's reputation nearly collapsed after the Oprah incident, she didn't run. When Paramount dropped him, she held him steady. Friends described her as calm, private, and the only person who could tell him no. She wasn't in it for fame. She wasn't afraid of the church. She simply loved him. Some called her the anchor. Others didn't even know her name. But if you look closely, really closely, you'll see traces of her. In a blink and you miss it, red carpet photo. In the background of a behind-the-scenes documentary. In a leaked Christmas card from years ago, signed only with a single initial. P. For years, her name was a whisper. Even close friends weren't sure. She wasn't a co-star. She wasn't a Hollywood powerhouse. She didn't need to be. She had known Tom before the private jets, before the box office records, when he still struggled with dyslexia, when he still doubted himself. She helped him learn lines when no one else had the patience. She sat beside him through hours of Scientology sessions, not as a believer, but as a partner. And then, in a quiet 2025 interview, Tom finally said it. Peter and I were married for 10 years. We raised children. She was my true north, and I was too proud to say it out loud before. The interviewer leaned forward. Wait, Peter? As in? Tom nodded. Petra Jensen. Not an actress, not a model, not a celebrity, just a fiercely intelligent, fiercely private woman from Vermont. A screenwriter, a ghostwriter, a mother, his best friend. And for 10 years, his wife. Tom Cruise has always been in control of his stunts, his career, his image. But Petra, she was the one thing he couldn't control and couldn't afford to lose. In the early years, he begged her to go public. She said no, not because she was ashamed, but because she saw what the spotlight did. She saw what happened to Nicole. She saw how Katie Holmes was followed, watched, cornered. Petra didn't want to become a headline. She didn't want their love picked apart by strangers. So they made a deal. We keep us safe, even if that means staying silent. For 10 years, they lived like ghosts. Private vacations, unlisted homes, aliases at hotels. They raised a son together, one the world never met. Not adopted, not biological. He came to them through tragedy and stayed. Tom was there for every birthday, every school play, but never once in a public photo. Because Petra made him promise, the moment our love becomes entertainment, it's over. And so, he vanished from her story. Publicly, at least, but privately, he never stopped writing her letters, never stopped wearing the watch she gave him, never stopped saying her name, in the quiet, when no one else could hear. Petra Jensen wasn't just private, she was quiet power, a writer who turned down interviews, agents, even book deals that used her real name. She ghostwrote screenplays, advised directors, even helped Tom rewrite key lines in Magnolia and Vanilla Sky. But her name was never in the credits, by choice. She believed love didn't need proof. Not on billboards, not on magazine covers. She often told Tom, "If I ever become a headline, I've already lost myself." So he protected her, even when the tabloids speculated about other women, even when critics questioned his emotional stability. In private, she was everything he wasn't allowed to be. Software still. Safe. She didn't try to change him. She simply made space for him to breathe. At home, they were nothing like Hollywood. He did the dishes. She read paperbacks in the kitchen while he made tea. Their son, Elijah, was 7 when he asked, "Daddy, why don't people know about us?" Tom paused, looked at Petra. She nodded. He knelt down and said, "Because this is ours. And sometimes the world doesn't get to have what's sacred." And it worked. For a while. But it came at a cost. To keep her safe, he let the world believe he was alone, even when he wasn't. He gave Petra the one thing he couldn't give anyone else, his silence. The end didn't come with shouting. There were no scandals, no lawyers, no public fallout. It came quietly, on a rainy Thursday in London. Petra had just returned from a retreat in the Scottish Highlands. Tom had wrapped shooting on Edge of Tomorrow. They met at a quiet apartment overlooking the Thames. She brewed tea. He brought flowers, tulips, her favorite. And without raising her voice, Petra said, "I can't be invisible anymore. Not to the world. Not to myself." Tom froze. He knew what was coming. He had felt it building. In missed calls, in long silences, in Elijah's questions, growing harder to answer. He tried to make it work, offered to go public, to change everything, to finally say her name. But she shook her head. "If it took losing me to say it, it's already too late." Tom didn't fight her. He just sat down beside her and cried. Not the tears of a man broken, but of a man finally realizing what love had cost him. That night, Petra left. No press release, no suitcase, just a single note left on his pillow. "I never stopped loving you. I just started needing myself more." She moved back to Vermont with Elijah, changed her last name, vanished again, this time by choice. And for 10 years, Tom never spoke of her, not once, until now. After she left, he didn't spiral. There were no wild nights, no breakdowns, no rushed romances, just silence. The kind that follows real loss, the kind that lingers. Tom returned to work. Mission: impossible. Jack Reacher, Top Gun, Maverick. One hit after another. Fans saw focus. What they didn't see was grief. His stunts got riskier. He hung from helicopters, climbed skyscrapers, clung to planes mid-air. He wasn't chasing thrills. He was chasing numbness. Crew members say he stayed on set long after wrap, rehearsed until exhaustion, ate alone. He stopped mentioning birthdays, skipped Christmas press events, never missed sending a gift to Vermont, but never signed his name. Just one letter. T. His relationship with Scientology deepened, not out of belief, but out of control. Structure, order, silence. Insiders say Petra's departure broke something he couldn't admit, not even to himself. He told one close friend, I've done every impossible thing they asked me to do, but I couldn't keep the only person who ever saw me when the cameras weren't rolling. By 2023, Top Gun Maverick exploded. $1.5 billion, a career resurrection. But in the after-party photos, he's always alone, smiling, posing, but never reaching, never holding anyone close, because the one hand he wanted to hold was gone. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a knock on his door. It was a letter, unmarked, no return address, handwritten in ink. It arrived in April 2024, on Suri's 18th birthday. Tom thought it was fan mail, until he opened it and recognized the handwriting immediately. It was from Petra, but it wasn't for him. It was for Elijah. One page, no drama, no nostalgia, just truth. Your father has never stopped loving you. His silence wasn't absence, it was protection. And when you're ready to find him, he'll be waiting. No accusations, no blame, just the kind of message only a mother who still believes could send. Tom read it 3 times before handing it to his assistant. He didn't say a word. That week, filming stopped on Mission Impossible. Dead Reckoning, Part 2. No explanation, just a personal hiatus. He flew to a private cabin in Colorado, where no press could follow, where one guest arrived 2 days later. Elijah, now 18, tall, quiet. With his mother's eyes, no cameras caught it, but a neighbor reported seeing 2 men sitting on a bench, not talking, just sitting. A father and a son. And maybe the start of something new. There's no press release, no public reunion, no Instagram post, but something changed. Since that day in Colorado, Tom Cruise hasn't done a single interview. Not a word about Petra, not a mention of Elijah, not even a cryptic quote. He's been seen, yes, filming, smiling, shaking hands on red carpets, but those closest to him say something's different now. He doesn't rush, he doesn't push, he listens more. His team noticed he keeps one photo in his trailer, a small black and white Polaroid. A woman holding a baby in the snow. Face turned away, but you can tell it's her. And on the back, just one line. Love doesn't need proof. It just needs time. Some say Petra lives quietly in Vermont, still writing under different names. Some say Elijah visits often. Some even whisper that she's been in the audience of his premieres. Never seen. Always watching. Tom Cruise may never speak her name again on camera. He may never walk another red carpet with her hand in his. But now, when the credits roll and the crowd stands, he looks up and he smiles, because somewhere in the shadows, she might still be watching. And after all these years, she knows.